How's everybody doing? And welcome to SSN, or as we affectionately refer to this channel around here as the Sergeant Saunders Network. I'm back after a long hiatus. Steve Dallas here. I will be your host as we venture forward with the Sergeant Saunders Hour. Now, without further ado, hop in, buckle up, and let's get ready to roll. How's everybody doing? I'm here. Good afternoon. We're going to start up part 2 or 1B. This is the cross and redirect from day 20, Dr. Moore. So let's just bring up a couple of slides here. And there we go. So this is going to be video episode 3003. And this was from Monday 5/23. And let's go back here for a second and see what we got. So our players are obviously Amber and Johnny. That's how they were dressed in the previous video. Nothing changed, same day. And then that's the doctor. He's the expert called by Amber Heard's team. And we saw him on direct. The video's up there if you didn't catch it. So, going into the cross, I said, when I listened to him, out of all the witnesses she's brought up, he's the most, I think, likable. He's down to earth, and he comes across genuine. How that's going to play out on cross, we're going to see, and how that's going to play out with the jury, we'll see on redirect what we think. Come to our final opinion on that. Then Rottenborn is going to be objecting. Camille is going to be up there on the stand asking the questions. And then I'm just loading up the video. Just give me 1 second. Let's bring this up. Okay, before we go further, I just want to tell everybody on this set of videos, there's no graphic pictures of Johnny's finger. I know in the first part there was. Some people may not have liked that. So nothing like that's going to happen. As you guys know, this is the whole testimony on the cross. I didn't cut anything out. All I did was add a few things, some funny things, so bear with it. Otherwise, it's really boring. And here we go.
Good morning, Dr. Moore.
Nicholas Van Helsing, professor of proctology and other related tendencies, graduate of the University of Rangoon.
Morning.
You said you reviewed Mr. Depp's video deposition, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you said you reviewed Mr. Depp's testimony at this trial, correct?
That's correct.
And was that also a video of his testimony?
Yes.
And you testified that Mr. Depp demonstrated that his hand was flat on a surface, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's not entirely accurate, is it, though?
No, his description was relatively consistent in both, including turning and resting the hand on the edge.
Isn't it true, Dr. Moore, that when Mr. Depp did the demonstration in his deposition, he showed that his fingers were hanging over the bar?
Well, even hanging over the bar, it still leaves the dorsum of the hand or the nail vulnerable.
That's not my question, Dr. Moore. My question is, isn't it true that Mr. Depp said his fingers were not laying flat on a table, they were hanging over the bar?
Okay, you know what ticks me off? People who think the earth is flat.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you knew that when you made that opinion. Isn't that correct?
Well, I believe that as I demonstrated sitting here, that I said that he had said they were slightly curled over, I think was the description that I gave.
Your description in this courtroom was that it was laying flat, and I think you've done that now twice. But in your deposition, you testified that his fingers were actually hanging over the bar. Isn't that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the witness's testimony. He clearly indicated they were curled. Or could have been curled.
Overruled.
So that's a distinction.
I don't understand what's going on.
That perhaps I misstated in one of the two descriptions. However,
He's fumbling for
that's not
words.
substantially changed my opinion of the impact it would have on the mechanism.
Because your opinion is bullcrap.
Isn't it true that Mr. Depp also testified that the bottle came from an off angle?
Yes.
Okay. And you consider that in rendering your opinions today, correct?
Yes, I believe he stated that it came from between 6 and 10 feet. I think it was I think he demonstrated it was off to his right. I can't recall specifically, but it was off angle, yes.
Okay. So it didn't come from the top, as you previously testified just a few minutes ago, correct?
Well, no, it would have struck the top of the finger, but it may have been slightly off angle in its approach based on the description.
Mr. Depp described it as off angle, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Moore, just at the outset, your billing rate for providing deposition testimony is $1,000 per hour?
That's correct.
Wow.
And you were deposed in this action for several hours on March 22nd, 2022?
That's correct.
And your billing rate for providing trial testimony is $5,000 per day?
Nice.
That's correct.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill.
Over the last few years, you've provided expert services for one of Ms. Heard's law firms on at least 2 other cases, right?
That's correct, yes.
Dr. Moore, is it fair to say that you have no personal knowledge as to how Mr. Depp injured his finger in Australia, correct?
No, I have no personal knowledge. My impression is based on his description of the injury and the available medical records for review.
But you weren't in Australia with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, correct?
I was not in Australia, no.
And so therefore you have no personal knowledge as to how that injury was sustained.
Correct.
You also never personally examined Mr. Depp's finger, did you?
Correct.
You didn't examine Mr. Depp's finger at the time it was injured.
I did not.
And you never provided any medical treatment to Mr. Depp in connection with his finger injury, did you?
I did not.
She's got him.
Now, you've testified that you identified Mr. Depp's finger injury as a crush injury, correct?
Correct.
And a crush injury is when a body part is crushed or trapped between 2 opposing firm surfaces, yes?
Yes.
And a crush injury to a finger can occur when a foreign object hits the finger, right?
Yes.
And based on the pictures that you reviewed of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you cannot determine what particular object caused the injury to his finger, yes?
Well, I can't determine exactly what object
Stumbling.
did it. I think that
Stumbling.
I can say with confidence that the described mechanism of the bottle hitting and shattering the finger was not consistent with the appearance
I
of the
understand
injury.
that. My question is just very specific. You can't determine the object that caused the injury to Mr. Depp's finger.
Well, it's a little bit more of a non-specific answer. I mean, I can't determine the exact object, but I can determine that it's unlikely that it was sustained in the manner described.
A bottle is a foreign object, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So you can't rule out that the injury to Mr. Depp's finger was caused by a vodka bottle, correct?
Well, based on the injury pattern, I can say that the described mechanism of injury is inconsistent with medical findings.
Sounds like
Right.
bullcrap.
But because a vodka bottle is a foreign object, you can't rule out that a vodka bottle is what caused Mr. Depp's
Oh,
injury.
Camille. She's
Well,
got him.
I can't rule out that a vodka bottle caused the injury, but I can rule out that it was caused in the manner described in his testimony.
Sounds like a crock of.
You can't rule out that the injury was caused by a knife, right?
I think it's unlikely that the injury was caused by a knife.
But you can't rule it out.
Couldn't cut his own
Well,
finger off.
a simple knife laceration wouldn't impart the injury to the distal phalanx to result in the convoluted fracture.
Bingo.
Now,
Contradicting
a
himself.
chopping type, but again, that would likely come from a direction that would create a dorsal injury to create the fracture that was developed.
Do you remember giving testimony in this case, Dr. Moore?
Deposition?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. And you were under oath, correct?
correct.
All right. And that was on March 22nd, 2022. Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
What'd you do?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-oh. Contradictory statements. She's going to try to impeach him. Going to try to show that he changed his statement and that therefore he cannot be believable.
Dr. Moore, may I please have you go to page 163 of your deposition, specifically line 17. (163).
Here comes Camille.
Actually, apologies, 164. Line 4.
Correct.
Question, but you can't rule it out completely, right? Answer, I can't rule anything out completely. I can't rule out that he caught it in the door, cut it with a knife, or slammed it in the car door. Or, again, as Dr. Gilmore said, we can't definitively say what caused this injury. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
Your Honor, I would object as the incomplete impeachment. I think if she's going to read his answer, she also needs to read or give Dr. Moore the chance to read the paragraph below. She just picked out half of his answer.
You can redirect.
Yeah,
I'll
as
rule the
well as the
objection.
paragraph above.
Dr. Moore,
Rotten board.
there's no question pending. Thank you, though.
Ooh, he got slapped. He's dazed. You don't even know what's going on.
So you can't rule out that the injury was caused by a car door either. Is that right?
Correct.
But it's your testimony sitting here today that you can rule out that the injury was caused by a vodka bottle. Is that your testimony?
My testimony is that I can rule out the injury as caused by the mechanism described by Mr. Depp in his deposition.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
But you can't
Coming
definitively
up with all
say
these
what
ideas
caused
that
the
don't
injury
make
to
sense.
Mr. Depp's
But
finger.
then he won't admit
Well, the
that.
definitive injury is a crush injury.
That is a possibility.
Again, I can't say. I mean, I think that it's quite likely that the initial mechanism described at the time of presentation of the accordion doors would classically create this injury pattern. You know, the hand up in front. If you picture accordion doors as the
John,
edge is
looking
closed, if
intently.
the hand's up, the palm is exposed.
He knows
if
it's
the door's
bullcrap.
pushed.
Dr.
hinge
Moore,
closes about the fingers.
I understand that. But
But
my question is,
I think it's important that they understand that.
this is the time
He's
for me to
controlling
ask
it
you
good, though.
questions. Your counsel
Not
will
letting
have
him
the
get off.
ability to
Not letting him do what
rehabilitate
he
you
wants
and
to
ask
do.
you questions on redirect.
Good
Right
boy.
now, let's try my question.
Okay.
You can't definitively say what caused the injury to Mr. Depp's fingers. Yes or no?
No.
Okay. In conducting your analysis of Mr. Depp's finger injury, you did not attempt to reconstruct the incident. Is that right?
Well, I think the incident was reconstructed. You mean did I throw a vodka bottle at something?
That's when Rotten Board should object.
No, no, Dr. Moore. I mean, you didn't do any type of accident reconstruction, either computerized or you didn't conduct any type of accident reconstruction of the alleged.
No, that's correct. My opinion is based on the medical records and the clinical images and Mr. Depp's description.
And your analysis is based on an understanding of how Mr. Depp described the exact position of his finger at the time of the injury. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And your analysis is also based on the assumption that Mr. Depp's hand remained completely still in the instance that a vodka bottle was hurled at him. Yes?
No, my assessment is on his description of the vodka bottle striking the top of his finger.
But his hand stayed still, according to your analysis. Yes?
I guess it was still long enough for the bottle to hit it, but natural reaction would be to try to pull away.
When you perform traumatic finger surgeries, you inquire about the cause of the injuries, correct?
Correct.
And your best information on that is typically just the self-report of the patient, yes?
Correct.
And your assumption is that the patient is trying to get care. Because the patient is trying to get care, that person, that patient, is generally telling the truth, right?
You would hope so.
Yeah. You reviewed Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony informing your opinion about Mr. Depp's finger injury, correct?
Correct.
Informing your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment
Objection,
for
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Depp...
May we approach?
Okay.
It's going to take them a while. It's going to take them a while to fix this. Camille's winning. They're up there a while. Wonder where Rotten One's fighting. Here we go.
Let's start over, because it's important the jury hears this.
She
So
won.
informing your opinion, did you consider Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that while Dr. Kipper was providing emergency treatment for Mr. Depp's finger injury in Australia in the driveway of the house, Mr. Depp told him that his finger was injured when Miss Heard threw a vodka bottle at him?
Did you order the code red?
I did the job. Did you order the code red?
She's got him.
I don't recall that from the deposition. I'd be happy to
Don't
review if you
recall.
have the deposition available.
Oh boy.
Did you consider Dr.
Chip is
Kipper's
thinking.
testimony that he recalled that Mr. Depp's finger was found in the kitchen?
I do recall that.
So you must have also seen Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony that he wasn't the one who actually found the finger, correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Kipper testified that someone he thought was the chef told him he found the finger in the kitchen area, correct?
I'm going to assume so without reading the deposition now.
Did you review any testimony from Ben King in rendering your opinions today?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you see any of Mr. King's testimony at this trial?
I did not.
So you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he is the one who found Mr. Depp's finger, are you?
Claws are coming out.
No.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that he found Mr. Depp's finger in the bar area, right?
Correct.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger in a piece of tissue in the bar area, either.
No.
And you're not aware that Mr. King testified that multiple broken liquor bottles were also found in the bar area, right?
Correct.
If we could please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1817, which is already in evidence. And it may be published, please.
I just don't have it yet.
That would help.
Yes. I just have a blank screen at the moment. There we go. Oh, sorry, something.
Thank
There we
you.
go. Okay.
Have you ever seen this picture before, Dr. Moore?
No.
So you're not aware that this is the bar area where Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger?
No.
Do you see that broken vodka bottle in the back corner near the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
Do you see the blood drops on the floor?
Yes.
Can we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1820, which is already in evidence? Have you seen this picture before, Dr. Moore?
I have not.
So you're not aware that this is also a picture from the bar area where Mr. King testified he found Mr. Depp's finger?
Correct.
Do you see the bloody tissue on the ground at the bottom of the bar?
Yes.
Do you see the blood drops around that tissue?
Yes.
So you didn't consider any of this evidence in rendering your opinion about how Mr. Depp injured his finger in Australia, did you?
I did not.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect. Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to get to the redirect in a second, but I just wanted to say that she's an awesome lawyer. She took him apart. The issue, first time I had it when I watched this, was when she came out. I thought she came out a little too strong going after him, because in the first, on the cross, he looked likable, he looked credible, and like I said, he was the nicest one out of all the ones they've put up there so far. So I was a little worried that she was going to come out too hard, but I think she can get away with that. Because who she is, and I think she's got a good personality, and I think and because she's a woman, going after him, I think she could be a little sterner. When Elaine does it, that's the lawyer on the other side. She's just not likable, and we'll see in other videos. And she turns you off just by the way she does it. So I think the styles are different. Again, I thought it was a little too harsh at first, but it actually, now watching it again, she actually dismantled his whole expert testimony. And as we see on the redirect, let's see what happens if they can actually get this thing back on their track, and then we'll have a good outcome of where today went so far with the first witness. I'm just queuing up the video. Here it comes.
Exhibit 1817 that was just shown to the witness, please. And can you blow up that what Ms. Vasquez referred to as a broken vodka bottle, Michelle, please? Dr. Moore, what based on your review of the documents in this case, what did you understand to be the size of the bottle of vodka that Mr. Depp alleged cut off his finger?
The description was that it was a handle, a half-gallon bottle.
And that's bigger than a 750 mil or fifth of liquor, correct?
Yes.
And what size bottle, if to the extent that's even a bottle, what size does that appear to be to you?
Calls for speculation, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
Does that appear to be a handle?
It is.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection.
You can take that down. Dr. Moore.
We used to call him the doctor.
Ms. Vasquez just asked you about Dr. Kipper's deposition testimony, and she said, "Is that
coming back from Camille,
where she claims that Mr. Depp allegedly told him that the finger was severed from a vodka bottle?" Do you remember that question a few minutes ago?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I do remember that question.
Yes, thank you. Is that consistent? That alleged account, is that consistent with the texts you reviewed between Mr. Depp and Dr. Kipper?
No.
And what did those texts say?
As I recall, Mr. Depp indicated that he had cut his finger off.
So would Johnny lie? Of course, he was trying to protect Amber. That's what I think. We saw Johnny
Ms.
testify
Vasquez
already.
wouldn't let you finish when you were trying to explain to the jury how Mr. Depp's account of injuring his finger in an accordion door would be perfectly consistent with the photographs you saw. Could you please explain that to the jury?
Well, so again, we tend to try to believe patients. We hope that they come in with an honest history initially, and that's a reasonable mechanism.
Trying to call Johnny a liar.
Occurred.
Did he use a wrench? I mean, he said you couldn't use any foreign
If you
object.
picture your hand up with either a closure of a hinge or a closure of a door.
You can't rule out any foreign object, but you can rule out the vodka
Palmar
bottle.
surface is exposed. If it's caught in that hinge as it closes, it could be slightly off center. It would pinch that tissue away in a similar fashion, but because it's below the level of the nail bed, it could create this injury with the fracture, the tissue loss, and preserve the nail bed.
Johnny did it himself. Don't think so. My opinion. We don't know what that counts for, though. You gotta worry about the
Can
jury.
you look at page 164 of your deposition, the one that Ms. Vasquez just showed you?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm going to object on hearsay grounds.
Your Honor, she only...
Overruled.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez asked you a question, and then she read your answer, trying to impeach you, but she only read half of the answer. So I'm going to read the whole answer to the jury, and I'm going to ask you to tell me if I'm reading.
There he goes. He's the shark, right? He compared himself to a shark.
The question is on page 164, line 4, but you can't rule it out completely, right?
He thinks he's
and you
coming in.
answered, I can't rule anything out completely. I can't rule out that he caught it in the door, cut it with a knife, or slammed it in the car door. Or again, as Dr. Gilmore said, we can't definitively say what caused this injury. And then you go on to say, this is where Ms. Vasquez cut you off.
He lies. But again, $6
finish.
million they got.
I don't think that's in the transcript. Objection.
I'll sustain that.
The rest of your answer that she didn't read to you, Dr. Moore, is the question I can answer is that the mechanism that was described by Mr. Depp and demonstrated by Mr. Depp is inconsistent with the injury pattern that's found on the images and the description. Did I read?
Well, we got a patent we want to sell.
A flycatcher.
How does it work? Oh, it's simple. That's enough.
Read that right?
Yes.
And does that remain your opinion today?
Yes.
Has anything that's been presented to you on cross-examination changed any of the opinions that you hold in this case?
That's what I think. You probably agree.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Moore, you're free to go.
All right, so we've seen the direct, the cross, and the redirect now. So you'll be able to formulate your opinion as to what we think the jury thinks. I think that Camille dismantled their whole suggestion that just because he texted that he did it himself, we already seen what Johnny said about that. So I think I'd already put an opinion who was more believable, Amber or Johnny, because they testified before this guy. So I think this is it doesn't really matter. I think this is a win for Johnny, for this witness. And he came in credible, he came in likable, but I think the story doesn't match. And what we see with these witnesses, basically you paid them enough money, just like their side was trying to say like, oh, you paid Dr. Curry, so she's going to say what you want. And it's the same for both sides. They're just trying to make each other look worse. And really what it comes down to is what story is more believable to the jury. So basically you could pay a witness, they're going to come in and say whatever story you want them to say, if they can find somebody to do that, and obviously this guy's getting $5,000 a day. So far, he's got the most money out of any of the witnesses that have come in to testify. So that's where we're going to wrap this one up. Witness number 2 is going to be up there shortly. Again, it's going to be broken down into direct, cross, and redirect. This way the videos are shorter. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like the material that we're putting out, please hit the subscribe button. And thank you very much. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys later on.